The finals Twitch numbers skyrocketed overnight. We'll go over all the details with that. We'll also talk about some of the comparisons with XDefiant and the netcode, as well as some fan-made creations and some new ideas. We'll go over some of the queue time stuff, as well as what some of the developers are seeing on the back end, and a whole bunch more. What's up, world? It's Utopia back in with another video, and today we're checking out all things the final. Okay, so yesterday we actually did have the finals somewhat blow up over on Twitch, at least in comparison to the current viewership. It did jump up quite substantially in comparison to the recent numbers. Now, there was actually a reason for this. This was a streamers dive event, a tournament sponsored by Nexon themselves. It looks like Embark did sponsor these streamers in order to promote this tournament. And again, this was actually specific to Japan, obviously for the hopes and to promote that game in that region, as it seems like the NA audience is most likely the strongest, and I'll go over some details with that, at least after this section here. Again, this was the streamers dive tournament. This was a Japanese tournament for the finals, where we saw a jump up to about 23,000 and a little bit more over on Twitch. Now, we saw a lot over on Twitch, but we also saw a ton of video and YouTube streams as well. Again, I didn't really see any promo work here in NA, but that's obvious for those reasons. But still, with it only being limited to that region, it seemed like it did decently well. We'll have to wait and see if they do this sponsored style tournament in other regions. Obviously, there was supposed to be some other esports stuff, but I believe the Breakout Esport was just the qualifiers. That happened on April 13th. Theirs will end on May 26th, and the actual tournament for the Breakout Esports stuff seems to be happening on June 8th to the 9th. Again, we'll have to wait and see on that one there specifically. This one, of course, was not sponsored by Nexon or anything of the like. I do know there was some Reddit posts last week asking about that, where is this stuff going on, but I think it was just the qualifiers, so it wasn't exactly being live streamed or showcased. It also seems like you're still able to register for the round 1 qualifiers, so that's still open. Maybe they've had to kind of extend that or delay those first round openers. And if there's any more news on the esports stuff, whether it's the sponsored ones or some of these third-party ones, we'll be sure to keep you guys into the news with that, especially if we hear anything. I'm surprised I didn't hear anything about the Japanese one. Maybe I didn't look into it enough. However, I'll be sure to be more on the ball with that stuff so I can keep you guys up to date with that. Speaking of regions, though, and some people with the matchmaking times, now I know we've had a lot of on and off stuff about that, whether the matchmaking times are good or bad, or if it's taking too long, or if there's a delay there. I know some people, by restarting your queue, has actually fixed the issue where people have been in queue for 20 minutes and then unqueued and requeued and then got a queue within a few minutes. We actually have a developer chiming in about those queue times, specifically to NA, where someone here was asking about some of the region stuff, changing regions and looking at all the stats. This Embark developer by the name Embark Bear went on to say, looking at the stats, I can't see anything unhealthy in the NA region. All I can recommend right now is to restart Steam and try and queue up again. If you continue to have these issues, I suggest contacting the support crew, obviously. He also went on here to further clarify, saying that he generally sees solid MN times, and that's with most regions, but I know some areas are obviously difficult, cause people to tend to queue at most casual times. Of course, it seems like Europe and NA seem to have the best queue times, and they seem to be pretty good still. Mine used to be around 30 to 40 seconds, and now sometimes they get over a minute. However, that's still fairly quick and fast for at least the matchmaking times in general. Again, I do know some other regions are having difficulties there, which it looks like they are trying to promote in some of those regions, as we just saw with the Japanese streamer tournament. Hopefully that does bring some new faces and eyes to the game. I know for a lot of it, the game just needs marketing and just a huge push, especially when we compare it to XDefiant and some of the other recent titles. There's a post here on the Reddit saying, after playing XDefiant, I appreciate this game that much more. Think the netcode in this game is rough, think the balance is bad, go try XDefiant and get back to me. I know XDefiant subreddit is basically on fire, with a lot of people super disappointed with that game. I played it back in August of 2021, and it is essentially, to me, the exact same game. It seems like there was performance fixes, but the netcode almost feels worse than when I played it back then. Definitely some hit reg issues, and they kind of ruined my favorite weapon, which was the P90. I've been playing that game on and off this weekend, but just it's not nearly as fun as the finals overall. I still might cover XDefiant overall if they do get up in popularity with that game. However, that game seems to have a host of issues and is really kind of in a rough spot right now. We also don't know when that game is going to release, and it basically got delayed from 2022 to 2023 to 2024. So they've had multiple years to kind of rewrite and rework this game, and they just really haven't done much. And the balancing on that game has gone backwards and forward, especially compared to the finals. Not to talk about XDefiant too much, but just kind of comparing both games and how they actually balance and their philosophy around it. XDefiant has essentially completely changed classes and completely reverted them, and then changed them back and then reverted them again. So there's a lot of back and forth there, kind of like Whiplash, and The finals doesn't really seem to do that overall. Whereas with the finals balance, they do seem like they actually take time to balance those features. Again, I know not everything's right there, and hopefully they do get kind of a better balance with it overall. But when you compare these two games, you definitely see that it's not so bad on the other side. Moving on though, we did have a post here about a block list. Now someone here has reached their 50 of 50 block limit, and they were saying that this was because of cheaters, or they wanted to block people because they were cheating. Unfortunately, as pointed out by another commenter here, blocking doesn't stop that. It just makes them so that they can't contact you, or through VC specifically with this game. It doesn't actually stop you queuing against them. I think that would be kind of potent, especially in ranked. You could just block top players, and that would just be a little bit far stretched there, so there has to be some give and take there. So yeah, if you are blocking cheaters, if they do remain unbanned, you still might queue up against them. Just an FYI there. So I would save your block list since there's only 50 slots for people that actually need it. Of course, people cheating definitely needs it, although they just need to be banned outright. The only thing you could do is keep tabs on who you've blocked, and that would obviously give you a muted icon over them so you would know that they previously cheated. Regardless, it looks like you might not be able to fill up that block list with cheaters, and it might not do much at all. We do have some new cool fan stuff here with a new gadget idea. I actually really like this one, and I think it might make light a little bit more viable, especially after some of the recent nerfs, and now that we're getting another one this week. This poster was done by Hassan Murat, who went on here to say that this is a turret type of structure. When placed directly on a cash out, it starts stealing it. This process would be slightly longer than doing it manually, maybe 10 seconds instead of 6, but obviously that would allow you to defend stuff while it's cashing out. Obviously that device can be stopped by explosions and bullets, and even the reshaper there, which could come more in handy with that and make that a little bit more viable as well. I think this is a really cool idea, as this definitely gives some light a little bit more move around. Could make them a little OP, although as someone mentioned here, you could make it 12 seconds, which would be double the normal cash out steal time. It seems like a big give and take there with that, so it could actually be definitely balanced. Some people think it might be a little bit too unbalanced with busted combos. Could be a little bit too much there, although I do think light needs additional gadgets there, or just something to kind of set itself apart, especially for the turret type of structures or turret type of stuff. This does seem kind of fun, and I think it gives Embark some ideas to work around and play around with. Again, mostly to just make the light kind of more viable, especially after the cloak nerf, and we're even going to get a further nerf this week. We'll have to wait and see on how that all plays out though. We also had some more fan art here with the player cards. Now, I've went over this before, but this looks really, really cool. Again, just some of the player card ideas that they could do with your overall player and kind of having these shown off. This was shown off by Corndoggy over on the Reddit. It seems like he put a lot of work and ideas into this overall, just kind of having the cool player cards. Again, most games really do have player cards, or at least some type of player card. This one seems much more personalized, which is really nice. I think it could add some more aesthetic to the game overall, and obviously games like Call of Duty have this already, although they don't have something that's as personalized as this, where you can show off your favorite outfit, or even intro screen, or even intro segment there. I think it all kind of nicely combines in there, and it would be possibly a filler for them to use on the Battle Pass. Obviously a cool idea overall. I'll link down to this post down below so you can see all the stuff with it. We'll have to wait and see. Embark has taken a lot of ideas from the community, so we'll have to see which ones they do take. Overall, that should about cover for today's video. If you like and subscribe, and it's the next one. Deuces.